My mother gave my entitled brother the security code to my $480,000 beach house and told him to move in without asking me. Then she called me heartless when I had him arrested for trespassing. You won't believe what happened next. Before we continue, please subscribe and hit that notification bell. This story is about what happens when the responsible child finally stops being the family doormat. My name is Elena, and I am 29 years old. I work as a marketing director for a tech automation company in Nashville, Tennessee. I have worked harder than most people twice my age to get where I am. I started in marketing right out of college, took every extra project, worked 70-hour weeks, and saved every penny I could. 5 years ago, I bought my first rental property. Then another. Then another. The beach house in Wilmington, North Carolina was supposed to be different. Not an investment. Not a rental. Mine. My sanctuary. The one I saved for years to buy. The one I closed on just 8 months ago after countless sacrifices. I was sitting at my desk on a Wednesday afternoon when my phone rang. My brother Jason's name flashed on the screen. I almost did not answer. Our relationship had always been complicated. He was 3 years older than me, but somehow I had always been the one taking care of things. Paying for things. Fixing things. Hey Jason, what's up? I said, putting him on speaker while I finished reviewing a campaign proposal. We are moving in Friday, he announced, his voice casual like he was discussing weekend plans. Mom already agreed. I stared at my phone, the words not registering at first. Moving into where? Your beach house. Mom said you barely use it anyway. And Kelly and I need a place while we look for something permanent. She already gave us the security code. My blood ran cold. My beach house. The one that was mine. The one nobody in my family had contributed a single dollar toward. Jason, nobody asked me about this, I said, my voice tight. That house is mine. I own it. He laughed. Actually laughed. Come on, Elena. Do not be like that. It is just temporary. Mom said you would understand. Family helps family, right? I hung up without another word. My hands were shaking. I immediately grabbed my laptop and opened the security app for the house. I had installed a comprehensive alarm system 3 months earlier after a series of break-ins in the neighborhood. Motion sensors, cameras, everything was state-of-the-art. I had invested $15,000 in that security system. My name is Elena Martinez, and at 29, I had achieved more than most people dream of. But my family had never seen it that way. To them, I was just the reliable one, the one who always had money, the one who always helped, the one whose boundaries did not matter. My phone buzzed. Mom. Elena, honey. Jason told me you were upset, she started before I could even say hello. I do not understand why you are making such a big deal about this. He is your brother. He needs help. He needs to ask me first, I said, my jaw clenched. It is my house, Mom. Not yours to give away. Do not be selfish, she snapped, and there it was. The tone that had followed me my entire life. You have so much and Jason is struggling. His lease is up and they need somewhere to stay. You are hardly ever there anyway. That was not the point. The point was that nobody had asked. Nobody had considered that maybe I wanted to use my own property, that maybe I had plans, that maybe I deserved to be consulted about my own house. Mom, the answer is no. He cannot move in. Well, it is too late now. I already gave him the code and they are packing as we speak. Jason said they will be there Friday afternoon. I closed my eyes, trying to steady my breathing. This was classic. My whole life, Jason had been the one who needed saving. Failed business ventures, credit card debt, job hopping, and every single time, Mom swooped in to fix it, usually at my expense. When I was 16, she borrowed the $3,000 I had saved from my part-time job to help Jason pay off his car loan. He was 21 and had wrecked his credit. I never saw that money again. When I graduated college, she asked me to co-sign an apartment lease for him because his credit was still terrible. I refused and she did not speak to me for 2 months. Mom, if Jason shows up at that house, I am calling the police. You would not dare, she said, her voice dropping to something cold. He is your brother, Elena. Your own flesh and blood. What kind of person threatens their family with police? The kind who is tired of being walked over, I said, and hung up. I sat there in my office, surrounded by campaign mock-ups and client presentations, feeling that old familiar knot in my stomach, the one that appeared whenever my family decided what I should do with my life, my money, my time. But something felt different this time. Maybe it was the fact that I had actually achieved something significant. Maybe it was the exhaustion of always being the responsible one, the one expected to sacrifice. Maybe it was just that I had finally reached my limit. I opened my security app again and changed all the access codes. Then I enabled the trespassing alert protocol. If anyone tried to enter without authorization, the system would automatically record video, sound an alarm, and send alerts to both my phone and the local police department. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Jason. What the hell, Elena? The code does not work. That is because I changed it. Why would you do that? We are already on the road. We have a U-Haul full of our stuff. Then you should turn around. I never gave you permission to move into my house. Mom said. Mom does not own the house, Jason. I do? And I am telling you no. There was a long pause. When he spoke again, his voice had an edge to it. You are being ridiculous. We are coming anyway. We will figure it out when we get there. The call ended. I stared at my phone screen, my heart pounding. They were coming anyway. Of course they were. Because in my family, my boundaries had never mattered. My wants had never mattered. I was just supposed to be grateful to help, to give, to accommodate. I pulled up the security footage from the house, checking that everything was functioning properly. The cameras covered every entrance. The motion sensors were active. The police alert system was engaged. I was not bluffing. If Jason tried to enter my house without permission, he would face consequences. Real consequences. Not just a lecture or a guilt trip. Actual legal consequences. That night, I barely slept. I kept checking my phone, waiting for notifications from the security system. Nothing came. Maybe they had turned around. Maybe Jason had finally listened. Maybe Mom had talked some sense into him. Friday afternoon arrived. I was in a client meeting when my phone started buzzing. Security alert after security alert. Motion detected at front door. Unauthorized entry attempt. Police notified. I excused myself from the meeting and pulled up the live feed. Jason and Kelly were at my front door. He was trying different codes, getting increasingly frustrated. Then he did something that made my blood boil. He picked up one of the decorative rocks from my garden and smashed my front window. The alarm started blaring immediately. Jason and Kelly climbed through the broken window, dragging suitcases behind them. They were actually breaking into my house. My phone rang. Wilmington Police Department. Miss Martinez, we have received an alert from your security system. We are dispatching officers to your property now. Do you know who might be attempting to enter? Yes, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. My brother Jason Martinez and his wife Kelly. They do not have permission to be there. This is a break-in. The officer confirmed my statement and told me to stay on the line. I watched through the security cameras as Jason and Kelly walked through my house like they owned it. Kelly was already taking photos, probably for social media. Jason was opening cabinets, checking out the kitchen. They looked comfortable, entitled, like this was exactly where they were supposed to be. 8 minutes later, police cars pulled up. Jason's face went white when he saw them through the window. The officers knocked on the door. Jason opened it, smiling like nothing was wrong. I could hear everything through the security system's audio feed. We are responding to a break-in alert, one officer said. Are you the homeowner? No. My sister owns it, Jason said, but she said we could stay here. There must be some misunderstanding. Do you have written permission from the owner? Well, no, but our mom gave us the security code. Sir, we are going to need you and your companion to step outside. That is when Jason's demeanor changed. This is ridiculous. My sister is being dramatic. We are family. She said we could use the place. Sir, please step outside. You do not understand. My sister is overreacting. She has plenty of money and we need help. This is what family does. We are going to need both of you to step outside now. The officers were patient but firm. I watched as they escorted Jason and Kelly out of my house. The broken window was photographed. The U-Haul was documented. Everything was evidence. My phone rang again. The officer who had initially called, Miss Martinez, we have detained the individuals who broke into your property. They are claiming they had permission from your mother to enter. Is this accurate? My mother does not have any legal authority over my property, I said. I am the sole owner. I never gave anyone permission to enter. They broke my window to gain access. I want to press charges. Understood. We will be filing a report for breaking and entering, criminal trespassing, and destruction of property. Do you want us to arrest them? Yes, I said without hesitation. I want them arrested. There was a pause on the other end. The officer was probably not used to people pressing charges against family members, but I did not care. I had spent my entire life being the bigger person, the understanding one, the one who let things slide. Not anymore. Within the hour, Jason and Kelly were arrested and taken to the station. I got a call from Jason's phone. It was Kelly. She was crying. Elena, please. This is insane. We just needed a place to stay. You are going to send your own brother to jail over this? You broke into my house, I said calmly. You smashed my window. You entered my property without permission. Those are crimes, Kelly. What did you expect would happen? We thought you would understand. Jason is family. Family does not break into each other's homes. Family does not ignore boundaries. Family does not assume they can take whatever they want. Please, Elena. We will leave. We will pay for the window. Just drop the charges. No, but… I hung up. My phone immediately started ringing again. Mom. What have you done? She screamed. You had your own brother arrested? Are you insane? He broke into my house, Mom. He shattered my window. What was I supposed to do? You were supposed to help him. He needed a place to stay. Then he should have asked me like a respectful adult instead of assuming he could just take my property. You are tearing this family apart. No, Mom. You and Jason tore it apart when you decided my things were community property. When you decided my boundaries did not matter. When you gave away access to my house without my permission. I hung up before she could respond. Over the next few days, I received dozens of calls from family members. Aunts, uncles, cousins. All of them telling me I was overreacting. All of them saying Jason made a mistake, but he did not deserve this. All of them suggesting I drop the charges and let it go. None of them seemed to understand that what Jason did was not a mistake. It was a calculated decision to disrespect my property and my boundaries. I blocked most of their numbers. The ones I did not block, I started recording every conversation. I learned quickly that I needed documentation. Evidence. Because my family was not going to stop. Jason's lawyer reached out, suggesting we could settle this quietly if I dropped the criminal charges. I refused. Mom filed a police report claiming I had verbally threatened Jason and made him fear for his safety. It was completely false. But she had witnesses who would back her up. Family members who would lie for her. That is when I sent the detective every recording I had. Every phone call. Every voicemail. Every text message. The recordings showed exactly what had happened. No threats from me. Plenty of harassment and intimidation from Jason and Mom. Jason's false complaint was dismissed immediately. The detective called me back. Miss Martinez, based on the evidence you provided, we are also documenting harassment from your brother and mother. Would you like to pursue additional charges? I thought about it. Part of me wanted to pile on consequences. But I was exhausted. Not at this time, I said, but I want everything documented. Already done. And Miss Martinez, you might want to consider a restraining order. This pattern of behavior suggests escalation. A restraining order against my own mother and brother. It seemed impossible. Like something from someone else's life, not mine. But maybe that was the point. Maybe my life had been impossible for a long time, and I just had not wanted to see it. The next attack came from a different angle. Someone filed an anonymous complaint with my company's HR department. The complaint alleged I was misusing company resources and harassing family members during work hours. It was clearly from Mom or Jason or someone they had recruited. When HR called me in, I was prepared. I showed them everything. The recordings. The police reports. The timeline of events. I explained that I had made maybe 3 personal calls from my work phone in 6 months, all during lunch breaks. My supervisor Melanie was furious. Note at me. At my family. This is harassment, she said flatly. They are trying to sabotage your career because you set a boundary. HR documented the complaint as malicious and false. They also offered me support, including legal resources if I needed them. That is when I decided to get the restraining order. I met with a lawyer named Patricia Chen. She was in her 50s, sharp and no nonsense. She listened to my story without interruption, occasionally making notes. When I finished, she looked at me seriously. You have one of the strongest cases I have seen for a restraining order. The trespassing, the false police reports, the workplace harassment. This is textbook stalking and intimidation. But I need you to be prepared. Getting a restraining order against family members is emotionally difficult. Your mother and brother will play the victim. They will tell everyone you are cruel and heartless. Are you ready for that? I am ready, I said. I cannot keep living like this. We filed for the restraining order the next day. The hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks later. In those 2 weeks, the harassment intensified. Mom called from different numbers, leaving long voicemails about what a terrible daughter I was. Jason's friends started showing up at my workplace, trying to deliver messages. Someone tried to access my beach house again, triggering the alarms. I documented everything. Every attempt at contact. Every escalation. Patricia compiled it all into a comprehensive brief. The day of the hearing arrived. I walked into the courthouse with Patricia beside me. Mom and Jason were there with their own lawyer. Mom looked frail and sad, like she had been crying for days. Jason looked angry. The bailiff called us into the courtroom. Judge Morrison was a woman in her 60s with kind eyes but a firm demeanor. Patricia presented our case. She laid out the timeline, the unauthorized entry, the break-in, the destruction of property, the false police reports, the workplace harassment, the continued attempts at contact after being told to stop. She played excerpts from my recordings. Mom's voice calling me selfish, Jason's voice saying they were coming anyway. The threats, the manipulation, the entitlement. Jason's lawyer tried to paint them as the victims. He said they were just trying to help family, that I was being cold and vindictive, that the restraining order was an overreaction. Then Patricia stood up. Your Honor, the respondents are not victims. They are perpetrators who refuse to accept that the petitioner has the right to control her own property. They broke into her home. They filed false police reports. They attempted to sabotage her career. And they continue to harass her despite being asked to stop. This is not about family helping family. This is about entitlement and control. Judge Morrison reviewed the evidence. She asked Jason and Mom if they wanted to speak. Mom stood up, tears streaming down her face. Your Honor, I am just a mother trying to help my son. Elena has always had more than Jason. She has a good job, multiple properties. We just needed a little help. I did not think asking to use a house she barely visits was such a crime. Judge Morrison looked at her steadily. Ma'am, did you have permission from your daughter to give her property access to your son? Well, no, but… And when she told you no, did you respect that boundary? Mom hesitated. I thought she would come around. She always does. Judge Morrison turned to Jason. Mr. Martinez, you broke a window to enter your sister's property. That is criminal behavior. How do you justify that? I was frustrated, Jason said. The code did not work and I thought there was a misunderstanding. I thought once we talked, Elena would see reason. There was no misunderstanding, Judge Morrison said. Your sister explicitly told you not to enter her property. You chose to ignore that and commit a crime. Judge Morrison looked at both of them for a long moment. Then she spoke. I am granting the restraining order. Both respondents are to have no contact with the petitioner for 2 years. No phone calls, no emails, no social media contact, no third-party messages. You are not to come within 500 feet of her residence, her workplace, or her properties. Violation of this order will result in immediate arrest. Furthermore, I am ordering both respondents to attend mandatory counseling to address boundary issues and entitlement behaviors. Mom gasped. Jason's face turned red. But Your Honor, Mom started. The decision is final, Judge Morrison said, and brought down her gavel. Walking out of that courthouse, I felt something I had not felt in years. Relief. Pure, overwhelming relief. They could not call me. They could not show up at my house or my work. They could not manipulate or guilt trip or demand. I was free. That night, I drove to the beach house. It was the first time I had been there since the break-in. The window had been repaired, paid for by Jason as part of his criminal restitution. The house was exactly as I had left it. Clean, peaceful, mine. I walked out onto the deck and watched the sun set over the ocean. For the first time in my entire life, I did not feel guilty. I did not feel like I should have done more, given more, been more. I felt proud. Proud that I had stood up for myself. Proud that I had set boundaries and enforced them. Proud that I had refused to be a doormat anymore. Over the next 2 years, my life transformed. Without the constant drama and demands from my family, I had energy for other things. I dated casually, taking my time to find someone who respected my boundaries. I traveled to places I had always wanted to see. Iceland, New Zealand, Ireland. I invested in more properties, building wealth on my own terms. At work, I thrived. Without the distraction of family chaos, I excelled. I got promoted to senior director at 31, one of the youngest in the company's history. I mentored junior employees, sharing not just professional advice but life advice about boundaries and self-worth. I adopted a dog, a golden retriever named Bailey. She became my constant companion at the beach house. My chosen family expanded too. Friends who respected me, colleagues who valued me, a community that saw me as more than just a resource to be exploited. Through mutual friends, I heard occasional updates about Jason and Mom. Jason struggled after his conviction. The criminal record made it harder for him to find decent jobs. He bounced around between low-paying positions, none lasting more than a few months. He blamed me for ruining his life. He never once acknowledged that his own choices had consequences. Mom fared slightly better professionally but suffered socially. Word had spread through their community about what had happened. Many people quietly distanced themselves from her. Her church group became smaller. Friends stopped calling. She became increasingly isolated, unable to understand why her version of events did not resonate with others. Both Jason and Mom petitioned twice to have the restraining order lifted early. Judge Morrison denied their requests both times. The respondents continue to frame themselves as victims, she wrote in her denial. Until they demonstrate actual accountability, the protective order will remain in full effect. I did not attend those hearings. Patricia handled everything. The decisions spoke for themselves. When the restraining order finally expired after 2 years, I had a decision to make. Would I allow them back into my life? Would I give them another chance? I thought about it for a long time. I even discussed it with my therapist, someone I had started seeing after the court case. She helped me understand something important. Forgiveness does not require reconciliation. I could forgive them for my own peace without letting them back in. I could acknowledge that they were struggling without making their struggles my responsibility. I could wish them well from a distance without subjecting myself to their dysfunction. So when the restraining order expired, I did not reach out. I did not open the door. I kept my boundaries firmly in place. Jason sent one email through a mutual acquaintance. He said he had learned his lesson. He said he understood now why I had been upset. He said he would respect my space. But the email was full of justifications and minimizations. He still did not really get it. He still saw himself as the victim of my overreaction rather than the architect of his own consequences. I did not respond. Mom sent a card on my 32nd birthday. It was one of those generic cards with flowers on the front. Inside she wrote, "I will always love you, even if you do not love me anymore." It was classic manipulation. Making herself the victim. Making me the villain. I threw the card away. 3 years after the court case, I met someone. His name was Daniel, and he was a software engineer. Kind, respectful, emotionally intelligent. On our third date, I told him about my family, about the restraining order, about choosing to cut them off. I was terrified he would judge me, that he would think I was cold or heartless. Instead, he said, "That must have taken incredible strength. I am sorry you had to go through that." We got married 2 years later. Small ceremony at the beach house with close friends. No family drama. No entitled relatives demanding invitations. Just people who loved and supported us. Standing on my deck, watching the sunset with Daniel beside me and Bailey at my feet, I thought about that day at the courthouse. I thought about Judge Morrison's gavel coming down. I thought about the look on Mom's face. I thought about all the years of giving and sacrificing and setting myself on fire to keep others warm. And I was grateful to that younger version of myself for everything she had endured. But I was even more grateful that I was not her anymore. The journey to get here had cost me a family, but what I had gained was something far more valuable. Myself. My peace. My power. My understanding that love without respect is not love at all. It is just control wearing a prettier name. I kept the security footage from that day Jason broke my window. Sometimes I watch it, reminding myself that I had been right to stand firm, that I had nothing to feel guilty about, that protecting myself had been the most important thing I had ever done. Some bridges once burned should stay burned, and I am finally genuinely okay with that. My family wanted to use me. They wanted access to what I had built without respect for how hard I had worked for it. They wanted to erase my boundaries and make me responsible for their choices. And when I said no, they tried to destroy me. They filed false reports. They attempted to sabotage my career. They played victim while attacking me. But I had something they did not count on. Documentation. Evidence. The law on my side. And most importantly, I had finally learned to value myself enough to fight back. If you are listening to this and you see yourself in my story, I want you to know something. You are not selfish for having boundaries. You are not cruel for saying no. You are not heartless for protecting what you have built. Family is supposed to love and support you, not exploit and manipulate you. And if your family cannot do that, you have every right to walk away. You have every right to choose peace over chaos. You have every right to put yourself first. The people who truly love you will respect your boundaries. The people who do not are showing you exactly who they are. Believe them. And protect yourself accordingly. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe to our channel, hit that like button, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a comment below telling me your thoughts. Have you ever had to set hard boundaries with entitled family members? How did you find the strength to protect yourself? Your story might help someone else. Until next time, remember that your worth is not determined by how much you give to people who refuse to respect you. You deserve peace. You deserve security. You deserve to keep what you have worked for. And you never have to apologize for protecting yourself from people who see you as a resource instead of a person. Take care of yourselves out there. And never let anyone make you feel guilty for refusing to be their doormat.